The throne room of the Velthari Dominion stretched for nearly a mile. Giant pillars of black stone rose toward a ceiling so high that clouds sometimes formed beneath it. Thousands of soldiers stood in perfect lines along the walls. Their armor shined like mirrors. Their weapons hummed with energy. At the far end of this massive hall sat Emperor Valthron IX on a throne made from the bones of conquered kings. Grand. Admiral Tyverus Cole walked a long path toward his emperor. His boots clicked against the polished floor. Each step echoed through the silence. He had served the Dominion for 200 years. He had burned worlds. He had broken empires. He had never once failed. The Emperor was old. His gray skin hung loose on his face. His four eyes glowed with a dim yellow light. But his voice still carried the weight of absolute power. "Admiral Tyverus," the Emperor said, "I have a task for you." Tyverus dropped to one knee. "I live to serve Majesty." "There is a world," the Emperor continued. "A small blue planet in a distant system. Our expansion corridor passes directly through it. The species there calls it Earth." A hologram appeared in the air between them. It showed a planet covered in blue oceans and green lands. White clouds drifted across its surface. It looked peaceful. It looked weak. "Our scouts have studied them," the Emperor said. "They call themselves humans. They are primitive. They have not yet discovered faster-than-light travel. They fight among themselves constantly. They have crude nuclear weapons that they threaten each other with but rarely use. They are divided into hundreds of small nations that cannot agree on anything." Tyverus studied the hologram. He had seen worlds like this before. Young species. Loud and aggressive, but ultimately helpless against the might of the Dominion. "Standard conquest protocol?" Tyverus asked. "Yes. Take the Ninth Armada. Offer them one chance to surrender. If they refuse, do what must be done." Tyverus rose to his feet. "It will be finished within a week, Majesty." The Emperor nodded slowly. "I expect nothing less." Over the next month, Tyverus assembled his fleet. The Ninth Imperial Armada was one of the largest in the Dominion. 1,200 warships of various sizes gathered in orbit above the throne world. 3 planet crackers joined them. These massive vessels could shatter a world into pieces with a single shot. 400,000 ground troops loaded into transport ships. Tanks and walkers and flying gunships filled the cargo holds. His officers gathered on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. It was a dreadnought 3 miles long. Its weapons could glass a continent in minutes. "This seems excessive," said Vice Admiral Rethus, his second in command. She was younger than Tyverus, but equally experienced. "We have conquered hive minds with smaller fleets. These humans have not even left their own planet." Tyverus shrugged. "The Emperor wants this done quickly and completely. I will not disappoint him." "Still," Rethus said with a slight smile, "it feels like using a hammer to kill an insect." The other officers laughed. The mood on the bridge was light. This was not a battle. This was an errand dot as Tyverus reviewed the final preparations. A servant approached him nervously. The servant was old even by Velthari standards. His robes marked him as an archivist from the Imperial Library. "Grand Admiral," the old man said, "may I speak with you privately?" Tyverus was annoyed but curious. Archivists rarely left their dusty halls. He stepped aside with the old man. "What is it?" The archivist's hands trembled as he held out a dated tablet. "I found something, Admiral. In the oldest files. The ones from before our empire existed." Tyverus took the tablet. On the screen was a document written in a language he did not recognize. A translation appeared below it. "This is from the Precursors?" Tyverus asked. The Precursors were an ancient race that had ruled the galaxy over 1,000,000 years ago. They had vanished without explanation. Only fragments of their records remained. Yes, Admiral. It is a quarantine notice. A warning about certain worlds that should never be approached. The archivist pointed at the screen with a shaking finger. Sol 3 is listed. The world you call Earth. Tyverus read the translation. It was short and strange. Quarantine order Sol system. Status. Forbidden reason. Redacted. Recommendation. Avoid all contact. Do not acknowledge. Existence of native species. The reason is missing, Tyverus said. Yes, Admiral. Someone erased it. Or perhaps the precursors themselves removed it before they disappeared. The archivist leaned closer. His voice dropped to a whisper. Admiral, the precursors ruled 10,000 worlds. They had technology we still cannot understand. What could possibly frighten them enough to quarantine an entire system? Tyverus stared at the document for a long moment. Then he handed the tablet back to the archivist. The precursors are dead, he said flatly. They have been dead for 1,000,000 years. Whatever scared them does not scare me. I have burned worlds that fought back. I have crushed species that had real power. These humans are children playing with fire. They are nothing. The archivist bowed his head sadly. As you say, Admiral, I only wish to warn you. Your warning is noted and ignored. Return to your library, old man. Leave war to warriors. The archivist shuffled away. Tyverus watched him go, then turned back to his bridge. His officers were still laughing and joking about how easy this mission would be. One of them was already planning how to spend his bonus pay. Tyverus pushed the archivist's warning out of his mind. It was ancient nonsense. The superstition of a dead race. The humans were primitives. They would kneel or they would burn. There was no third option. All ships report ready, Admiral, Rethus announced. Good. Tyverus sat in his command chair. Open a channel to the fleet. His voice boomed across 1,200 ships. Warriors of the Dominion. Today we begin a simple task. A small world stands in the path of our glorious empire. We will give them one chance to join us peacefully. If they refuse, we will remind the galaxy why the Velthari are feared. For the Emperor. For the Dominion. For eternal glory. The fleet answered with a roar of approval. Engage hyperdrives, Tyverus commanded. Take us to Sol. Space twisted and bent around the armada. Stars stretched into lines of light. Then the fleet vanished, leaving only empty darkness behind. In the Imperial library, the old archivist sat alone among mountains of ancient records. He stared at the precursor document on his tablet. His hands still trembled. They should have listened, he whispered to no one. They never listen. He closed the file and began to pray. The 9th Imperial Armada dropped out of hyperspace near a giant blue planet with rings of ice around it. The Velthari called it the 8th World. Humans called it Neptune. It floated in the darkness like a cold jewel, far from the small yellow sun at the center of this system. Grand Admiral Tyverus stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion and watched his fleet appear around him. Ship after ship blinked into existence. Destroyers and cruisers and battleships spread across space like a swarm of metal insects. The 3 planet crackers took position at the center of the formation. They were ugly ships, built only for destruction. All ships have arrived, Admiral, Vice Admiral Rethus reported. No damage. No casualties. The fleet is ready. Tyverus nodded. Begin scanning the system. I want to know everything about these humans before we reach their world. The data began flowing in within minutes. The human solar system was ordinary. 8 planets orbiting a medium-sized star. Scattered asteroid belts. A few moons worth mining. The 3rd planet from the sun was Earth. It was small. Smaller than most worlds the Dominion had conquered. But it was covered in life. 7 billion humans, Admiral, a sensor officer announced. Multiple population centers spread across the planet's surface. Technology level is primitive. Chemical rockets. Basic satellites. No energy shields. No plasma weapons. No faster-than-light capability. Rethus laughed softly. They have not even colonized their own moon properly. A few old flags and some abandoned equipment. This will be the easiest conquest in Dominion history. Tyverus allowed himself a small smile. The archivist's warning seemed even more foolish now. These humans were not a threat. They were barely more advanced than animals. Move the fleet to the inner system, Tyverus ordered. Standard approach formation. When we reach Earth, broadcast the surrender demand on all frequencies. The Armada began its slow journey toward the sun. Hours passed. They crossed the orbit of the seventh world, a giant ball of swirling gas. Then the sixth world. Then the fifth, the largest planet in the system. Covered in storms that had raged for thousands of years. As they approached the asteroid belt between the fifth and fourth worlds, something strange happened. Every screen on the bridge flickered. Tyverus frowned. What was that? Unknown, Admiral, the sensor officer said. Some kind of interference. It lasted only a second. Find the source. Before anyone could respond, a voice filled the bridge. It spoke in perfect Velthary. Not translated Velthary. Perfect Velthary, with the accent of the throne world, with the formal grammar of the Imperial court. Unidentified vessels. You have entered protected space. State your intentions. You have one opportunity to withdraw peacefully. The bridge fell silent. Every officer stared at the speakers in shock. Where did that come from? Tyverus demanded. The sensor officer's hands flew across his controls. His face went pale. I do not know, Admiral. The signal did not come from anywhere. It simply appeared inside our communication systems, as if someone placed it directly into our computers. That is impossible. Yes, Admiral. It is impossible. But it happened. Tyverus felt something cold touch his spine. He ignored it. He had not risen to Grand Admiral by showing fear. Open a channel. All frequencies. Let these humans hear the voice of their conqueror. The communication officer nodded. Channel open, Admiral. Tyverus spoke clearly and loudly, so that every human on that little blue world would hear him. This is Grand Admiral Tyverus Cole of the Velthary Dominion. We have conquered 12,000 species across 800 years. We do not negotiate. We do not withdraw. We do not ask twice. Surrender your world to us, and you will be allowed to live as servants of the Empire. Refuse, and your planet will burn. You have 1 hour to decide. He cut the channel. His officers nodded in approval. This was how the Dominion spoke to lesser species. With strength. With certainty. With absolute confidence. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then the voice returned. It was different this time. Older. Deeper. And somehow very, very tired. Very well. We had hoped you would be different. Every light on the bridge went dark. Every screen turned black. Every instrument died. For 5 terrible seconds, the Eternal Dominion was blind and deaf, floating helplessly in the void. Then everything came back online. But instead of sensor data and tactical displays, every screen showed the same image. A human woman. She appeared to be middle-aged by human standards. Her hair was gray and white. Her eyes were dark brown. She wore a simple white uniform with no decorations. She sat behind a plain desk in a plain room. She looked like a teacher or an administrator. She looked completely ordinary, but something about her made Tyverus want to run. She spoke calmly, almost gently, as if explaining something to a small child. I am Warden Director Elena Chung of the Seoul Defensive Authority. For the official record, I am required to inform you of the following. First, your fleet has been scanned. We know the position, speed, and weapon status of every ship in your armada. Second, your communication systems and computer networks are no longer under your control. We have had access to them since you entered the system. Third, your hyperdrives have been disabled. You cannot retreat. Tyverus felt his blood freeze. Around him, officers frantically checked their systems. The horror on their faces confirmed the woman's words. How is this possible? Rethys whispered. The woman continued as if she had heard the question. You are wondering how this is possible. Your species discovered faster-than-light travel approximately 600 years ago. Mine discovered it approximately 47,000 years ago. We have been watching you since before your empire existed. We watched you rise. We watched you conquer. We chose not to interfere because you never threatened us. She paused. Her eyes seemed to look directly at Tyverus, even though this was only a recording. Or was it? Today, you threatened us. This was a mistake. Tyverus found his voice. We are the Velthari Dominion. We have crushed empires greater than anything you can imagine. Your tricks do not frighten me. The woman tilted her head slightly. There was no anger in her expression, only something that looked almost like pity. Grand Admiral, in approximately 4 minutes, your fleet will be erased. Not destroyed, not defeated, erased. The matter that makes up your ships will be scattered across 14 dimensions. There will be no debris, no survivors, no evidence you ever existed. You are bluffing. The woman shook her head slowly. I am not. I am giving you a final courtesy. Use these 4 minutes to make peace with whatever gods you worship. Or do not. The outcome will be the same. The image flickered. For the record, Elena Chen said quietly, you were warned. The screens went dark. Tyverus stared at the blackness where her face had been. His heart pounded in his chest. His hands trembled on the arms of his command chair. Admiral, Rethys said. Her voice was barely a whisper. What do we do? Tyverus did not answer. He did not know. 3 minutes remained. Grand Admiral Tyverus Cole refused to believe what was happening. He had conquered worlds. He had broken empires. He would not be frightened by a single human woman on a screen. All ships, weapons hot. He shouted into the fleet channel. Target anything that moves. Destroy anything that approaches. We are the Velthari Dominion, and we do not surrender. Across the Armada, 1,200 warships powered up their weapons. Energy cannons hummed with deadly light. Missile bays opened. Shields flickered to full strength. The fleet was ready for battle. 2 minutes remained. Sensors sweep, Tyverus ordered. Find their ships. Find their weapons. Find something. The sensor officer's voice shook as he responded. Admiral, I am detecting nothing. No ships. No weapons platforms. No satellites. There is nothing out here but us and empty space. Then, what are they threatening us with? I do not know, Admiral. I do not understand any of this. Vice Admiral Rethys moved close to Tyverus. Her face was pale. Admiral, perhaps we should consider the possibility that this is real. If their technology is truly so far beyond ours. No. Tyverus cut her off. This is a trick. A bluff. They are trying to scare us into retreat without a fight. I have seen this before. Lesser species always try to appear stronger than they are. 1 minute remained. A young officer at the back of the bridge began to pray quietly. Others joined him. The sound of whispered prayers filled the air like soft rain. Tyverus ignored them. He stared at the main view screen, watching the distant point of light that was Earth. Such a small world. Such a foolish small world to challenge the might of the Dominion. They will learn, he said quietly. They will all learn. 30 seconds remained, then 10. Then none. Nothing happened. Tyverus allowed himself a moment of relief. He had been right. It was a bluff. The humans had nothing. They were primitives playing games with their betters. Admiral, the sensor officer screamed. Tyverus spun around. What is it? The officer pointed at his screen with a trembling finger. Ship 742. It is gone. Gone? Destroyed? No, Admiral, gone. It was there 1 second, and then it simply was not there anymore. No explosion. No debris. No energy signature. It just vanished. Before Tyverus could respond, another officer shouted, Ship 319 is gone. Same thing. It just disappeared. Then another voice. Ships 502 and 503. Gone. Then another. And another. And another. Tyverus watched his tactical display in horror. Little dots of light that represented his ships were blinking out one by one. Not moving. Not exploding. Just ceasing to exist. Fire. He screamed. Fire at everything. Fire at nothing. Just fire. The fleet opened up with everything it had. Energy beams cut through empty space. Missiles flew in random directions. The planet crackers charged their main weapons, preparing to shatter worlds that were not even targets. None of it mattered. The vanishing continued. Ships disappeared in groups now. 10 at a time. 20 at a time. 100 at a time. The tactical display looked like a night sky, where stars were being switched off by an invisible hand. Captains screamed over the communication channels. Some begged for help. Some prayed to gods, who did not answer. Some simply went silent as their ships ceased to exist. Retreat! Rethus shouted. Admiral, we must retreat. The hyperdrives! Tyverus remembered. Try the hyperdrives. Officers frantically worked their controls. Nothing happened. The drives were completely dead. Whatever the humans had done to them, they were not working. They were trapped. In 20 minutes, 800 ships had vanished. In 30 minutes, that number reached 1,000. The 9th Imperial Armada, the pride of the Velthari Dominion, was being erased like words on a chalkboard. Tyverus watched his fleet die and felt something he had never felt before. True fear. The kind of fear that reaches into your chest and squeezes your heart. The kind of fear that makes you want to curl up and hide like a child. He had been wrong. So terribly, terribly wrong. After 45 minutes, only 90 ships remained. They clustered together around the Eternal Dominion like frightened animals. The vanishing had stopped, but no one believed they were safe. Then a ship appeared. It was small. Barely larger than a shuttle. It had no visible weapons, no shields, no markings. It simply floated in space before the remains of the Armada, silent and still. What is that? Tyverus whispered. No one answered. No one knew. The ship broadcast a simple message. Grand Admiral Tyverus Cole, please approach your main view screen. We wish to speak with you. Tyverus walked to the screen on legs that barely worked. His officers watched him in silence. The fear in the room was so thick it was hard to breathe. The screen flickered, and Elena Chun appeared again. She looked exactly the same, calm, patient, a little sad. Grand Admiral, she said, we have preserved your ship and 89 others. This was deliberate. We need you to deliver a message to your Emperor. Tyverus tried to speak. His voice came out as a croak. He swallowed and tried again. What have you done? I told you. Your fleet was erased. The matter that formed your ships now exists as background radiation scattered across 14 dimensions. They were not destroyed. They were unmade, This is not cruelty, Admiral. This is efficiency. 1,100 ships, Tyverus said. His voice broke. 400,000 soldiers. Done in less than an hour. Yes. How? What kind of weapon can do this? Elena Chun was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was gentle, almost kind. There is no weapon, Admiral. At least not in the way you understand. We simply asked the universe to forget that your ships existed, and the universe agreed. That is the simplest explanation I can give you. Tyverus felt tears running down his face. He did not care. Pride did not matter anymore. Nothing mattered anymore. What are you? He asked. What are you really? The woman looked at him for a long moment. Her dark eyes held something ancient and deep. We are what your precursors were afraid of, Admiral. We are the reason they left this region of space 1,000,000 years ago. We are humanity. We do not conquer because we have no need to conquer. We do not expand because we are already everywhere we wish to be. We do not fight because nothing in this galaxy can fight us. She leaned forward slightly. We wait. We watch. And we remember. We remember everyone who comes in peace. And we remember everyone who does not. Tyverus fell to his knees. He could not stand anymore. The weight of what had happened was too heavy. Go home, Admiral, Elena Chun said softly. Tell your Emperor what happened here. Tell him that humanity offers mercy exactly once. Tell him to accept it. The screen went dark. The small human ship vanished as quietly as it had appeared. Grand. Admiral Tyverus Cole knelt on the bridge of his flagship and wept Dot around him. The survivors of his once great fleet began the long, silent journey home. Dot. They had come to conquer a world. They had discovered something far worse than an enemy. They had discovered gods who did not wish to be gods, but could become them at any moment they chose. The journey home took 3 months, without working hyperdrives. The 90 surviving ships had to travel through normal space at slower than light speeds. They limped from system to system, stopping at refueling stations and repair docks along the way. Word spread ahead of them. By the time they reached the throne world, everyone knew that something terrible had happened. Grand Admiral Tyverus Cole had not spoken in weeks. He sat in his quarters on the Eternal Dominion and stared at walls. He did not eat much. He did not sleep much. When he closed his eyes, he saw ships vanishing. He heard the screams of dying captains. He felt the cold presence of Elena Chun's sad, knowing eyes. He was not the same man who had left 3 months ago. That man had been proud and confident. That man had believed in the power of the Dominion above all things. That man was dead now, erased as surely as his fleet. When the Eternal Dominion finally entered orbit above the throne world, Tyverus received an immediate summons. The Emperor and the entire High Senate wished to see him. They wanted answers. They wanted explanations. They wanted to understand how the greatest armada in Dominion history had been destroyed without firing a single effective shot. Tyverus put on his dress uniform. It felt loose. He had lost weight. He looked at himself in the mirror and barely recognized the old, tired creatures staring back at him. Then he went to face his judgment. The throne room was packed. Thousands of senators filled the viewing galleries. Military officers lined the walls. Scribes recorded everything. At the far end, Emperor Valthron Ix sat on his throne of bones and waited. Tyverus walked the long path alone. His footsteps echoed in the silence. Every eye in the room was on him. He could feel their judgment. He could feel their contempt. He reached the throne and knelt. "Rise," the Emperor said. His voice was ice. "And explain." Tyverus stood. He took a deep breath. Then he told them everything. He told them about arriving in the Sol system. He told them about the first transmission in perfect Valthyri. He told them about Elena Chun's warning. He told them about the 4 minutes. He told them about ships vanishing 1 by 1, then 10 by 10, then 100 at a time. He told them about the small ship that appeared at the end. He told them about humanity's message. When he finished, the throne room exploded. Senators shouted in anger. Some called him a coward. Some called him a liar. Some demanded his immediate execution for bringing such shame to the Dominion. Impossible! One senator screamed. No species can do what you describe. You fabricated this story to hide your own failure. Where is the evidence? Another demanded. Where is the proof? Tyverus pulled a data crystal from his pocket. This contains all sensor recordings from the Eternal Dominion and the surviving ships. Watch them. See for yourselves. I am not lying. The recordings were played on massive screens throughout the throne room. Senators fell silent as they watched ships vanish into nothing. They saw Elena Chung's calm face as she explained what was happening. They heard the screams. They saw the empty tactical displays. When the recordings ended, no one was shouting anymore. Fear had replaced anger. The truth was worse than any lie. Emperor Valthron IX leaned forward on his throne. His ancient eyes burned with fury. This cannot stand, he said. One world cannot humiliate the Velthari Dominion and live. We will send the 3rd Fleet, the 7th Fleet, the 12th Fleet. We will send every ship we have. We will burn that world to ash and scatter the ashes across the void. Majesty, Tyver said quietly, I beg you not to do this. You beg? The Emperor's voice cracked like thunder. You, who lost an entire armada. You dare beg? I do, Majesty. Because you did not see what I saw. You did not feel what I felt. These humans are not what we thought. They are something else entirely. Something we cannot fight. Something we cannot defeat. If you send more fleets, you will lose them too. Silence. The Emperor roared. I will not be lectured by a failed admiral. An old voice spoke from the senator's gallery. Perhaps, Majesty, you should listen. Everyone turned. The speaker was the ancient archivist who had warned Tyverus before the mission. He walked slowly down the stairs, supported by a cane. In his free hand, he held a data tablet. What is this? The Emperor demanded. Who allowed this old fool into my throne room? Majesty, I am Archivist Kellen of the Imperial Library. I have served 5 emperors. I have decoded more precursor text than any living Volthari. And I have found something you must see. He held up the tablet. This is the complete precursor file on Sol 3. I have spent 3 months decoding it. The parts that were redacted. The parts that were hidden. The parts that the precursors themselves tried to destroy before they vanished. The throne room fell absolutely silent. Archivist Callan read from the tablet. His old voice trembled, but his words were clear. Sol 3 status, forbiddance, native species designation, human, evolutionary status, anomalous. Approximately 50,000 local years ago, the species underwent an accelerated evolution event of unknown origin. Current capabilities, unquantifiable. Technology level, unquantifiable. Threat assessment, extinction class. Recommended action, avoid all contact. Do not approach. Do not observe. Do not acknowledge existence. Forget this world exists. We are leaving this region of space. We recommend all future civilizations do the same. They do not age as we do. They do not think as we do. They do not die as we do. They are patient beyond measure. They are kind beyond reason. But if they are threatened, they become something else. Something we cannot describe. Something we cannot fight. We are the precursors. We have ruled this galaxy for 10 million years. We are leaving now because we are afraid. The archivist lowered the tablet. The precursors ruled 10,000 worlds, Majesty. They had technology we still cannot understand. They left because they were afraid of humans. Not angry, not defeated, afraid. The Emperor sat frozen on his throne. His ancient face showed something it had never shown before. Then, every screen in the throne room flickered. A new image appeared. Elena Chun again. But this time, she was standing in a garden. Behind her, children played on green grass under a blue sky. She smiled at them warmly before turning to face the camera. Emperor Valthron X, she said. We know you are considering retaliation. We understand. Pride is difficult to swallow. Gasps filled the throne room. The broadcast was bypassing every security system. It was appearing directly on screens that should have been completely isolated. We have been watching your empire since before it existed, Elena Chun continued. We watched you rise. We watched you conquer. We could have stopped you at any time. We chose not to because you never threatened us. She paused. The children behind her laughed at some game only they understood. Today, one of your admirals brought a fleet to our doorstep with conquest in his heart. We removed that fleet. We did not enjoy it. We take no pleasure in death, even the death of enemies. But we protected our home, as any species would. She stepped closer to the camera. Now we offer you a choice, Emperor. The same choice we have offered every species that has ever threatened us. Go in peace. Expand your empire elsewhere. Forget that soul exists. Accept this mercy and live. Her eyes seemed to look directly at the Emperor. Or send more fleets. Lose more ships. Learn the lesson again and again until you finally understand. We do not wish to destroy you, Emperor, but we will if we must. This is not a threat. This is a fact. And we only offer mercy once. The screen went dark. Emperor Valthron X sat on his throne for a very long time. Then, slowly, he spoke. Clear the throne room. Archivist Kellen, Admiral Tyverus, you will stay. Everyone else leaves now. The senators filed out in silence. The soldiers followed. The doors closed with a heavy boom. In the empty throne room. An emperor, an admiral, and an archivist stood together, faced with a truth that would change everything. And somewhere far across the stars, humanity returned to its peaceful existence, content to tend its gardens and raise its children, hoping it would never have to erase another fleet again, but prepared to do so if necessary. 100 years passed. The Valkyrie Dominion still existed. It still conquered worlds. It still expanded across the stars. But it had changed in ways that no one spoke about openly. On every star map in the Empire, there was a region marked in deep red. It was shaped like a sphere, roughly 200 light-years across, centered on an ordinary yellow star. No name was written inside this sphere. No planets were listed. No resources were noted. The only label was a simple warning. The exclusion. No Valkyrie ship entered the exclusion. No probe was sent. No signal was broadcast toward it. The region was treated as if it did not exist at all. Young officers sometimes asked about it. Why was such a large area of space forbidden? What was inside? Why did the Empire simply go around it instead of through it? Their superiors always gave the same answer. The area is navigationally hazardous. Unstable space. Dangerous radiation. No one goes there because no one can survive there. This was a lie, and everyone knew it was a lie. But the truth was taught only to emperors, passed down in whispers on the night of their coronation. A secret too heavy for common citizens to carry. Emperor Valthron X had died 30 years after the Sol incident. His son had taken the throne. Then his grandson. Then his great-grandson. Each one learned the truth on the night they became emperor. Each one understood why the exclusion existed. Each one kept a secret. The empire continued to grow, but always away from Seoul. Expansion corridors bent around the forbidden sphere. Trade routes made wide circles to avoid it. The Dominion had 10,000 new worlds now, 20,000. But that one small blue planet remained untouched, unreachable, unspoken on as the decades passed. The story leaked. Not officially. Never officially. But soldiers talk. Archivists whisper. Senators drink too much wine and say things they should not say. Slowly, the truth spread through the empire like water soaking into sand. There was something in the exclusion. Something that had destroyed an entire armada in less than an hour. Something that had made the precursors flee. Something that watched the galaxy with patient eyes and waited. The Valkyrie began to tell stories. Parents frightened children with tales of the Silent Ones, the ancient species that slept at the center of the forbidden sphere. Priests spoke of gods who had chosen not to rule, who had hidden themselves among the stars, who would wake if disturbed. Poets wrote verses about the patient watchers, the beings who measured time in millennia and remembered everything. The story spread beyond the Dominion. Other spacefaring species heard them. They asked questions. They demanded answers. A delegation from the Korath Federation visited the throne world one day. Their ambassador was a tall creature with 6 arms and eyes that changed color with her emotions. She stood before Emperor Valthron XII and asked the question that everyone wanted answered. Why do you avoid the exclusion? What is there that frightens the mighty Valkyrie? The emperor was young. He had been crowned only 5 years ago, but he had learned a secret, and he understood its weight. There is a species in that region, he said carefully. They call themselves human. We call them other things. Human? The ambassador's eyes turned curious yellow. We have never heard of them. Are they powerful? The emperor laughed. It was not a happy sound. Powerful? Ambassador? That word does not begin to describe them. They are not powerful in the way that we are powerful. They do not conquer. They do not expand. They do not build empires or wage wars. They simply exist, quietly, peacefully, on their little blue world. Then why fear them? Because 100 years ago, my ancestor sent an armada to conquer that little blue world. 1,200 warships, 3 planet crackers, 400,000 soldiers. The most powerful fleet in our history. The emperor paused. His eyes were distant, seeing something that had happened long before he was born. The humans destroyed that fleet in less than an hour. They did not use weapons. They did not use ships. They simply made our armada cease to exist. One moment, 1,200 ships. The next moment, nothing. As if our fleet had never been. The ambassador's eyes turned fearful purple. How is that possible? I do not know. No one knows. The humans explained it in words that made no sense to us. They said they asked the universe to forget our ships, and the universe agreed. That is insane. Yes, and yet it happened. We have the records. We have the testimony of survivors. It happened. The emperor stood and walked to a window that looked out over his capital city. Billions of his people lived their lives below, unaware of the truth he carried. Ambassador, my people have a proverb now. It has been passed down for 100 years. It says, the humans are not gods, but they could be if they wished. They do not conquer, but they cannot be conquered. They do not expand, but their reach is infinite. They call themselves human. We call them the patient ones. They have been waiting since before our sun was born. They will be waiting when it dies. Do not wake them. Do not test them. Above all, do not give them a reason to remember your name. The ambassador was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke quietly. And if we approached them peacefully? If we came as friends? Perhaps they would welcome you. Perhaps they would trade with you and teach you things beyond imagination. Or perhaps they would simply watch you and wait, as they watch everyone, as they wait for everything. We chose not to find out. We chose to leave them alone. I recommend you do the same. The ambassador returned to her people with this warning. The Korath Federation marked the exclusion on their maps and avoided it forever. Other species did the same. Within another century, the entire galaxy knew about the region of space that no one entered, the world that no one approached, the species that slept at the center of it all. And on Earth, humanity lived as it always had. Children were born. Old people died. Families gathered for meals. Lovers walked on beaches. Artists created beauty. Scientists asked questions. Farmers grew food. Teachers taught lessons. Friends laughed together. Strangers became friends. They built cities and tore them down and built them again. They made mistakes and learned from them. They hurt each other and forgave each other. They dreamed of better futures and worked to make them real. Most humans never knew about the wardens, the silent guardians who watched the stars, the protectors who had sworn to defend Earth without conquering anyone else. They lived their quiet lives in secret bases and hidden stations, monitoring the galaxy, cataloging every ship that passed, ensuring that no threat ever reached their sleeping world. The wardens kept records. They had been keeping records for 47,000 years. Every species that had ever discovered them was listed. Every ship that had ever approached was noted. Every threat that had ever been neutralized was documented. The Velthri invasion was recorded as entry number 4417. Warden Archivist added a final note to the file 100 years after the incident. It read, "Subject species showed restraint after initial warning. No further hostile action taken. Survival probability assessed as high. Classification upgraded from hostile to potential friend. Recommend. Observation continue. Reassess in 10,000 years." Then, the archivist closed the file and returned to her other work. Outside her station, Earth turned slowly below. Blue oceans. Green forests. White clouds. Cities that glittered like jewels in the night. A world full of ordinary people living ordinary lives. They did not know they were protected. They did not know they were feared. They did not know that their existence had shaped the destiny of a galaxy. They simply lived. They simply loved. They simply hoped for tomorrow. And somewhere in the darkness between stars, the rest of the galaxy remembered them in whispers and prayers. The species that could have been gods, but chose to be gardeners. The watchers who waited. The patient ones. Humanity. The stars continued to turn, as they had for billions of years, as they would for billions more. And humanity waited with them. In no hurry at all.